Hello everyone, Hazel Bulubisi here. Welcome to my channel. If you're new, this is a channel where we always try to navigate through life by talking about our own life experiences, and sometimes we also have some travel videos and a few product reviews here and there. So if you're interested in that, make sure to hit the subscribe button and also make sure to hit the bell button so as to always get notified whenever I upload videos. Before we begin this video, I just had to put this photo to show you people. This is the Italy you all romanticize. Like even I, before I moved here, I used to think it was such a nice place, and yeah, which it is. It is a beautiful country. I wouldn't disagree on that. But as I always say, living here as a black person is a whole different experience. As you can see, this photo was taken on my street, the street I live in, just last week. We're in March 2021, guys, and this is still happening. And even until now, it's been a week since I saw it. No one has even bothered to remove it. Like my friend and I even contemplated on removing it, but to be honest, I got scared because I'm like, okay, if I'm caught by cops, what do I say? But no one, because I know, of course, my reality wouldn't be the same if a fellow Italian would go and remove it. And until now, it's still there. No one sees the problem with it, or as usual, people will ignore it and act like there's no racism in Italy. But this is the real reality of Italy. Anyway, let's just get on to the video. So today our video we'll be talking about, it'll be a talking video as per the usual for most of the videos. And today I'll be touching on a sensitive topic because I think it's a topic that I really needed to talk about. It's something that even happened to me that I had not expected or planned for. And we'll be talking about discrimination and racism. So as per the usual, I like giving a definition of something if I am talking in terms of, I guess, something I can define. So I'm going to start by giving the definition of discrimination, which I'm going to read here. I googled it. So it says, discrimination is the unjust or the prejudicial treatment of different categories of people, especially on the grounds of race, age, sex, or disability. So as we have seen the definition of discrimination, it's not something I ever had to think about. It's not something I knew I'd ever have to think about. I mean, growing up, you heard about it, but I didn't think I'd ever have to experience it. I didn't think it was something that will happen to me. So yes, as you all know, for those who have been following, I am Kenyan. I have grown up in Kenya, known everything about my life is very Kenyan. But at the age of, I think, 19, I took the leap of faith and decided to move abroad. So I moved abroad because of studies, and I went to Italy, to Rome. And I don't think, it never even took, I didn't take the time to even think about it or like, be like, is it the right choice or is it something good, you know? Like I just saw an opportunity and I took it and I was like, okay, I'm going. But I didn't know all the hardships that would come with it. First of all, I never knew I was black until I went to Italy. It's not something I thought about. It's not something that stood out for me. I mean, I grew up around people who all look like me. We are all the same. We all see each other the same. No one discriminates the other because of how they look. So it was something very unusual for me to have to go through, for me to have to experience. And I remember I even said it in another video. The first time I realized I was black was actually when I had to transit through while going to Italy, and we were in this bus and there was no other black person apart from me. And I was like, okay, this is weird. This is a weird feeling. This is all new. Then when I got to Italy and I realized my skin color is such a big deal to some people. Like from the way they look at you, from the way maybe you enter a bus and someone sneers, Or you enter somewhere and someone clutches onto their bag, and I'm like, okay, like, what is your problem? You know, to be honest, it really wasn't anything I expected. And it's really hurtful. It's a painful feeling. It's not even something I can explain. You know, you're a human being. You've grown up thinking I'm normal, I'm a human being like anyone else. You see the other people as human beings like all other people. Like, you know, it's never crossed your mind that people will look at you as an inferior being because your skin is darker than the other. That people will think you're not well educated because you come from a certain continent. That people will think, I don't know, you're just different from them. You know, it was... Anyway, it really makes me annoyed. I always get so upset talking about this. But I said this is a video I need to do. So yes, as I said, first, I was never aware I was black until I left the country. Then second was the experiences I got. The thing first I said, by all the stares, I didn't expect to be stared at so much. It was very, I don't know how to explain it. Like, you feel very uncomfortable, you know. Enter a room, everyone turns and stares at you. You do something, someone turns and whispers at the other. You come with maybe different hair, because of course black culture, you know, we change our hair all the time. Someone has something very mean to say about it, and they just think that it's okay to tell you such things, you know. So it's just something I wouldn't wish upon anyone, for someone to go through it. It actually surprises me, especially women who, well, let me say even women who are not of color, who look down upon people of color. Because I feel like as a woman, you know how it is to be looked down upon by a man. You know how it feels. So think of it now. You're a woman, you're black, and you're living in a world that is mostly of white people, you know. So I don't understand these people who discriminate. But anyway, I don't even know where I'm going with this video. I'd said I was going to talk about it. I wrote points, but I just feel like I keep on thinking about all these experiences, and it's really getting to me. So anyway, let me start by sharing my experiences. I think my first experience of racism was, it wasn't even 24 hours since I'd been in the country. I remember because my auntie had come to tour Italy, so we were traveling with them. Like, I landed on that day and they were like, okay, we are going to Venice. And I remember asking them, that day I was still naive. I didn't really understand the whole point of traveling and stuff. I hadn't really grasped the whole concept. So I remember asking if I needed to carry my passport or not. And then I don't know why I ended up leaving my passport. And we were in a train. It was an overnight train. Then the ticket guy comes and starts checking our tickets, checks our tickets. So he reaches, he's like, okay, I need to see your passport. So I start panicking. I'm like, oh, I don't have my passport. Like, my passport, I left it at home, but I have a copy of it on my phone. Like, I even showed him. I think the rest of my family members had theirs. It was, I think, probably my cousin and I who didn't. My cousin had been living there for a while, so she had her permit, but I think she had a copy of it or something of the sort, and I had also the photo of my passport on my phone. And the guy was really mean, and he was shouting, and he was saying, I'm going to call the police, you people, I don't know, are people running away, or we are trying to get into their country? Like, it was all sorts of nonsense. And then the funny thing is, the cube next to us were also tourists who, for some weird reason, also had photos of their passports, but they were white. And those people, he wasn't yelling at them, he didn't do anything. They showed him the photos and he was okay, and he left. But to us, he was so mean. I was like, okay, why? Why is all this? And then coming from a society where we are always so friendly to white people when they come to our country, then you go to theirs and they're really treating you like trash, for lack of a better word. So that was disturbing. So that was the first time, but anyway, I just brushed it off. Like, at that point, I think it didn't even hit me about racism until like way later. I was like, wow, this guy was actually being racist. Then another thing I realized, I don't know if it's only an Italian thing, but old men just assume that we are all black young women are prostitutes. And it's something that really pisses me off, because again, I remember we were in Venice and this man walks up to us. Meanwhile, it's I I think, day 2 of being in Italy. I don't know Italian, I don't understand anything. This man walks up to me and starts saying things and holding my hand and refusing to let go of my hand. And you know, I'm so uncomfortable because I have no idea what he's saying. But then at that point, I think my cousin could understand a bit. She was like, oh, he wasn't saying nice stuff. Like he was saying sexual innuendos and saying the way he could take me to a room and stuff like that. And I'm like, this is quite disturbing. First, can't you see that I'm a child? You know, at that point, I still felt like a child. Like I was 19. I don't even understand what you're telling me. Like, yeah. So that was one experience with an old Italian man. The second one was, I remember it was like my second day of school. I was late. Then I had taken the bus. The bus didn't stop at my bus stop. It stopped at the bus stop ahead. So I was really irritated. I'm trying to get to school. Then this guy on the motorbike just stopped right in front of me. And I think I was really naive at that age. You know, I'd never used to get things quickly. I assumed maybe he was asking for directions or something. Again, he held my hand. I don't know why I used to give people my hand. Anyway, he held my hand and refused to let go. And you know, I wasn't understanding because still I didn't know Italian that well. But you can tell from the body language, and he kept on doing something to me. And I'm just like, fam, let go of me. I need to go. Like, I'm busy. I need to go to class. So it was really disturbing. And the last point also with a man again was, you know, it's during summer. Summer is hot. Everyone wears shorts. Everyone wears whatever. And you're walking. You're going to, I think I was coming from uni. And we're on a highway. You know, a highway like, I don't even know which road I can give. Maybe even Ngong Road, somewhere like that. This man stops and opens the window. He was opening the window, telling me to enter his car to go with it. I was like, homie, you know, by that time I think I was older. I was like maybe third year. Yeah, it should have been like third year probably. I just walked. I didn't even stop. I was like, I'm so done. Like, I'm so over this. Where you people are always viewing black women as just objects of sexual, what is the word? What is it? Sexual pleasure. I'm like, do you know how much it's taken me to just uproot myself from my country to come here just because I'm chasing a dream and to better myself, and all you can see is something you can just sleep with, you know? It's really pissing off. So those were the few uncomfortable circumstances I had. Then there was also in uni, I think that one was my hardest because first, I didn't expect to have to experience this in uni. So I didn't understand why it was happening to me, first of all. And I was just like, I was confused. And what made it worse is no one does anything. Everyone just sits there and stares. So it was, I even talked about it in one of my Instagram posts a while back. Because I think that's been my worst. I always put it as my worst experience where I was in uni. I remember it was one random day I had worn African, because in second year at some point I was really obsessed with wearing African clothes because I was proud of where I'm coming from. I want to show my heritage and stuff. And I remember that day I wasn't even in full African gear. Like, I was like, so if I was in full African gear, how would you have reacted? Because I was in black jeans, a black top. Then you know the way you can wear something like this. It's not a kimono, I don't know what I can call it. Over, that was the African one. So I decided to match it with like an African scarf and I tied my hair. And yeah, I tied it in a big way because like I tied a bun. So this random guy comes up to me, actually comes to the table where I'm seated. I don't know if they were sitting there before or not. Then out of nowhere starts touching my head. So I'm like, okay. So I looked at him, I'm like, yeah, okay. You know, I'm a person who doesn't like confrontation, so I just like half smiled and, you know, went on with whatever I was doing. Then a few moments later, his friend comes also. Then they start asking me very stupid questions. But in my head, I'm like, okay, it's just the normal stupid questions and then Africans ask, let me just answer. Like, I think I was even being nice. So he asked me what type of food we eat. I showed him. I even Googled a photo of ugali and showed him. He's like, oh, and what type of clothes do you wear? So I'm like, eh? He's like, yeah, what type of clothes do you wear? So I'm like, normal clothes, what do you mean? Then his friend starts Googling, I don't know, Gucci and stuff. He's like, do you know what Gucci is? Do you want? Mind you, we're in 2018, 2019. You ask me if I know what Gucci is. Do you think I live under a rock? So by then is when I realized these people, So I just like, yeah, did a half smile, like, and, you know, turned back to my books. And I remember I was quite uncomfortable. This whole time it's in a library. We're meant to be quiet. These people keep on bothering me. Then, out of nowhere, this guy starts making animal noises. So I'm like, okay, this is weird. I try laughing it off, but I'm like, in my head, I'm like, ah. Eventually, I went to class. I came back. I sat. They were still there. And they were quite noisy. So I even got irritated. I left earlier than I usually leave the library. And I remember that day, a girl, which she's the only one who has ever asked me about these things. And I really give her a prop because I'm like, she's very different from the others. She texted me and asked me, did you leave the library early because you were feeling uncomfortable? And I remember texting her and telling her, no, it's okay. These guys were just asking me questions. I didn't really find it bad because at that point, I wasn't really, like, I didn't think it was that bad. But then the next day I was in a dress. I wasn't in any African attire. This guy, I met him, I remember at the door of the library. I don't even know why I stopped to say, because I never even say hi to everyone. Like, I'm always so quiet, I'll just look at you. But that day, I was like, let me be nice. I stopped. I think to say hi, or I don't know if he's on who said it, I can't even remember. Then he says, oh, today you're dressed like normal people. You're not dressed like people who live with the lions. I was like, eh? You know, I got so pissed off. I didn't even know what to say. I just opened the door, slammed it, and walked away. And what made me upset is, one, no one said anything. Two, even the friend who I called my friend who was there didn't even see what was wrong with that statement. So I packed my stuff, I left. So what made me upset, because he did that now, and me being my stubborn self, I decided I'm going to wear African clothes for the whole month. So every day I was in African clothes. And because I was in African clothes, what would this guy do? He'd always come and start making animal noises at me. And he's with his friends, so they make fun, they make animal noises, and they start laughing. And you know, everyone just looks and stares, be it it's outside in the lawn while we're eating lunch, be it in the library where it's quiet, be it anywhere he'd meet me, he's just making animal noises at me. And you know, it was quite upsetting, it was quite degrading as a human being. Because what you're telling me, you're just seeing me as an animal. And you think it's funny with your friends because I'm not talking back at you. I'm not someone who will start shouting and yelling. Like, I'll just pack my stuff and leave. And it was heartbreaking because no one knew, like, no one did anything. No one saw like this was a problem. No one could see this girl is hurting and she can't stand up for herself and actually tell that person, you know, you're being wrong. Because I feel like if it's someone who's viewing me as an animal, of course they won't hear anything I have to say that is coming out of my mouth. They'll listen to the person who looks like them. So it was quite upsetting to see that everyone was ignoring it, including the people that I called my friends, you know. So, and this brings up the point of where it's hard. I never had to think of the fact that even as a being or as I'm existing, I know even with my friends, sometimes I feel like I can't be 100% comfortable with them because I'm not even sure what they think about me. Or I'm not sure, or even such topics, if I try to bring up topics like racism and stuff, you know, they just brush it off like it's nothing. And I'm like, if you're doing that, and it's, you know, it's my life, maybe you're not understanding, it's really upsetting. So that made me a bit skeptical with, I guess, everything and friendships and how I interacted even with people in Rome. And I think I became very closed off. So yeah, that was my worst experience. It went on for quite a while, I think like a month or so. And every time I'd go home crying, I'm crying because I'm feeling so bad. I'm like, I don't know how to deal with this because I've never experienced it before. And then in our school, there's nowhere to report such things. And coming from people who are just staring at you and doing nothing, I don't think they'd even understand, you know. So it was really disturbing. And it really took a toll on me. Like, it really made me realize, okay, I knew I was different, but making me feel like I was very inferior and like I'm just nothing, you know. And because I'm an African, it's I don't know what they think about Africans. Like, it's upsetting. So yeah, I had to deal with that. But eventually, as years go by, you grow a thick skin. You learn how to just ignore it. You learn how to ignore all the passive-aggressive comments, all the passive-aggressive questions, all the stupid things people say about Africa. And the funny thing, the people who talk all these things about Africa have never even stepped onto the continent. So I'm like, what are you saying? And it's upsetting also that the media always covers Africa as this poor place. Okay, of course, each continent has its own good and bad side. Of course, there's the poor side, and there's also the good side of Africa. Like, it's not just always kids walking naked and living in slums and stuff like that. And you know, it's funny because I feel like it depends on who the person is. Because I remember even there's a point I was talking to some guy, and he was so happy to tell me, yeah, I went to Kenya. I was like, okay. And then it's like, yeah, I went to the slum. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. Maybe because you don't have slums. I don't know why it fascinated you about it. But see, I went to look at his page. I mean, Kenya is a vast country. There's safaris, there's the beautiful malls, there's beautiful everything, culture and everything. The only thing he showed about Kenya was the slums. And I was like, this is not a person I would even want to interact with because you're just making us look bad. Like, that's all you're showing, making people in your country think that's all our country is about, slums. Like, anyway. Yeah, so I think for me, discrimination was it was too much. It wasn't anything I was prepared for. Things like about my hair, when I had to change my hair and people comment or someone calls their friend to point at me, laughing because my hair has changed. Like when I went to uni with natural hair, like even nowadays, I never go to uni with my hair open because of all the things I went through. Like I was even shocked. Like they actually called their friend and pointed and they all started laughing. And I was like, okay. I just stood and left. Then things to do with food. There's a day I think, and I'd made food. I think it was just rice and meat, simple rice and meat. Someone comes and tells me your food is smelling. And I'm just like, so what do you want me to do? Like what? You know, such things. And I'm like, sometimes I sit and wonder, do people actually think before they say these things, or they just blat out things and just, you know, it's upsetting. So I guess, yeah, those are some of my experiences. There have also been experiences in public transport where I remember an old lady kept on yelling, telling me I should go back to my country, and the whole bus was full. No one says anything, no one does anything to stop them. You stand there and take all the discrimination. Then there is rounds also, which is usually quite interesting because you see the shock on patients' faces when you enter and they're like, okay, a black doctor. You can see they can't say anything, but their face shows it all. I remember there was one patient who, because there's a resident I usually follow. I really like her. So she teaches me stuff. And I remember she told me, there's a patient I want you to go and check. So I was like, okay, cool, because I'm always excited to go check a patient. But then anyway, we ended up entering the room with her. But I realized the moment I entered, that guy really looked at me badly and he made a face. So I was like, okay. I could tell, here. So she's like, you have to check. Of course, to check, you have to touch the person. You could feel he doesn't want me to touch him, but he can't say anything. But he keeps on fidgeting, like what? And when I realized he didn't want me to do anything is when, because usually when you're listening to the lungs, you'll tell the patient to breathe in, breathe out. When my friend was doing it, he was breathing quite proper, quite okay. But when it was my turn to do it, he did nothing. He sat there. I kept on telling him, can you breathe so I can hear? He did nothing. So my fellow resident actually had to tell him, please breathe in, breathe out. I don't think she even noticed the point, but I noticed and I was like, okay. So she was trying to tell me to go back later. I was just like, no, I avoided that situation. I was like, I don't have the strength for this today. Because I think you go through these things and they make you, like it hurts. It's not things you expected and they make you really doubtful of yourself, make you feel really bad. So it's something that took a while to just, I guess, adjust, if I can say. So that was the difference in all of it. And I think, the reason why I'm sharing these stories is to make you more aware. Because I think most people are not quite aware of this, or rather, I'd say the white people even around me think, like even most Italians, they think they're not racist, but the things they'll say and do to you, and you're like, what do you mean you're not racist? That's being racist, you know. But they don't want to take that lesson when you tell them that they're being racist. So I think why I'm sharing is so that you're aware of it, you know, it makes you aware, and even before you say anything or before you do anything, to someone, take a moment and think, is what I'm doing right? Is what I'm about to say going to make the other person feel less of a human being than they are? Are my actions, am I a person who's condoning discrimination by sitting there in silence and doing nothing and not correcting the person who is wrong? Think about it. And I feel like that question goes to everyone, because even as for me rather, if I'm, let's say, I'm a Kenyan girl, a black girl sitting here seeing another black person being discriminated and I don't say anything, I'm being wrong. I as a person should be able to stand up and say it, should be able to speak up, say you're being wrong, this is not right. And of course, as I said, most of the time they won't listen. And that's why I always say that's the point where you use your white privilege to help this person who at this point is being discriminated. You even see during when there were the racial discriminations in America, and people, you see the difference where it came in when also people went out to riot during when George Floyd was killed, and the white people went out to riot. You know, that was something so great to see, because it's not something you see every day, where there are people who don't look like you, but they're supporting you and helping you in the struggle you have. As much as people don't want to see it, there'll always be white privilege in everything. In life, in things as job opportunities. Because I even have a friend who finished school with his classmates in the States. And his classmates got jobs immediately after. I think he even did better than them in school. But his schoolmates, or rather his classmates, because they were white, immediately got jobs. But because he's black, you have to be discriminated against your color, discriminated against your country, and making you African doesn't even make it any better. So it took him so long, I can't even remember how long, for him to just get a job because of his color. I was like, that's crazy. Like, you know, we never think about these things, but there are things that happen. It's a reality of life. It happens every day, be it at work, be it at school, be it at home, where you're in your home in a foreign land, but people treat you like you're not in your home, you know, and you're all paying the same. Okay, I am back. Sorry for the change. My SD card got full, so I had to change it. Anyway, where was I? I was saying, so it gets tiring. It gets tiring as a human being, having to fight, to feel like you have to fight for your space in the world every day. It gets tiring that, you know, you might have other things you're going through in life, but still there's this one thing that's always hanging over your neck just because you're a different skin color from someone else. It's tiring that as a woman, you're already dealing with being overlooked all the time by men or by just society in general and being told how you should be. Then on top of that, adding racism onto it. And now it's like you're the bottom of the food chain and always have to feel like you have to fight and have to defend your space, you know. And even just feeling safe. Like, it's so hard to feel safe in the world because you're not sure if you're going to meet someone who's so obsessed with the white supremacy or someone who just thinks that you don't belong in the world and that day they're going to attack you and you die. You know, you never know. So it takes a lot. It's a lot to deal with. It's a lot to even process every time you see people dying due to racism or people being attacked due to racism. And it just takes so much strength to have to wake up in the morning, to have to remind yourself that, okay, you're good, you're fine, you're just as anyone else. And to have to remember that you have to grow a thick skin and whatever anyone says or whatever anyone tries to do, it doesn't matter because it's them hating. It's not reflecting on you and you should not let it reflect on you or affect you. But it's hard. You can't say not let it affect you because of course it will. So it's hard having to go through all this. And even just a simple thing, even such as dating. Like, I never thought dating would be so hard when living abroad. Like, it's a lot. You have to consider, you think about how am I going to start explaining about my hair to this man? Or how am I going to start explaining about my features? Or are they, you know, going to wake up one day and think, oh, your features are not as good as the normal people from my culture, or how are you going to deal with the cultural differences? Like, you know, it takes so much energy and you have to think about all these things. Even if you see someone you fancy, the thought of even them fancying you back is like, oh my gosh, will that ever happen? You always have to remind yourself, okay, you're black, they may probably not like black people, you know. So it's crazy that we as black people have to wake up and think about all these things and still have to live life like everything is normal. And that's why I'm having this conversation, because I feel like once we start having these conversations and once we start speaking out, maybe people will understand, or maybe people will actually know as to why we fight so much for equality, or why we fight so much for just being able to have our own space and live without being looked down upon, without being discriminated, without being told that you're not enough, you know. So I even said it in my Instagram post, we need to start normalizing talking about these things and stop brushing it aside like it's nothing, because it's something, and it's something that happens every day. And the moment you take your white privilege and start understanding that you're at a better point, I think it will make a difference, and it will start making people more aware of the things that happen, or that these things are real and it's not just things you see on the media. And maybe that will make people change their mindset, and probably, hopefully, one day I dream of a world where racism will not be an issue. I mean, I don't think it will come anytime soon, because I feel like of late we've been taking one step forward and 10 steps back. I do hope if I ever decide to have children, or if I ever have to have grandchildren and great-grandchildren, that they live in a better world where they're not discriminated for the color of their skin, or for how their hair looks like, or for the shape of their body, you know. So I really hope it makes a change. So for you who is watching this, may you be black, may you be white, may you be, I don't know, Asian, because racism is all over. It's not, I mean, being black is the most dominant one, but I believe still discrimination in relation to race is all over the world. So I think we actually really need to start having these conversations. Anyway, so I hope you learned something today. I hope you realize your privilege, and even for the black person, I hope you realize that you're strong enough and can do this and can go through it and get through all the discrimination that there is. And always remember that the person who's hating on you, or the person who's doing these things to you, is probably actually small-minded, or is just someone who has their own issues, or they're seeing a potential in you that probably they don't have, and it bothers them, and that's why they decide to pick this aspect of your life and pick on you. So don't let it get to you. Don't let it affect your life. And yes, if it gets hard, I always say have your group of black friends, because they're the only ones, sometimes they're the only ones who will understand. Go if you need to talk about it, if you need to cry, if you need to go to therapy, do all you have to do. But don't give the person affirmation that they're getting to you by doing these things. Because the moment they realize that, I think they continue doing it over and over and over again. And also, don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. So I really hope that we all make this world a better place. We all be able to take part and do what we need to do in this society to make it a better place. That's it for today. I don't think I have anything else here. It's made me quite upset, but we are learning, and learning to be upset, and learning to have these conversations naturally, so everyone learns and everyone makes it better. I hope you learned something. Have a great week. Bye.